Okay. Hi, Cheyenne. Okay, this is how you make a etouffee. So, 99% of everything we're going to do is prep. Because once we get to the stove, we do not leave the stove. And you will not leave the stove for at least 30 minutes. So, prep, prep, prep. So here, if you'll focus in on this, right? It's not a mirepoix, right? Mirepoix does not have peppers in it. It has carrots. So this is the Holy Trinity, as we say in New Orleans. It's the Holy Trinity, okay? So there's onions, there's celery, and there's peppers. I recommend sweet peppers, not bell peppers. Bell peppers have a tendency to turn bitter. All right, next thing over, let's go into here, right? So this is either 1 or 2 cups of wine, depending on your taste, white wine, that is, right? There are 4 chicken bouillon cubes in here. Whatever you didn't put in wine, the remaining 4 cups is going to be water, right? And then Louisiana hot sauce, right? And I do mean Louisiana hot sauce, not Tabasco, not anything else. Louisiana hot sauce, right? I put at least 2 tablespoons in. You might want to go a little bit lighter, especially for certain sisters that, you know, salt is spice. So, the other thing you need, Tony Chachere's. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Do not do anything if you do not have Tony Chachere's. All right. Other things we have over here, right? So we have the crawfish tails, which have been thawed out. And then I poured a can of Rotel across the top. And then I just let it sit in the sink and drain, right? And we just have it. There's very little liquid left sitting there, right? This is the last thing that's going to go in. All right, here. All right, so what we have here is the beginnings of a roux, right? So it's equal amounts of oil for flour is how you make a roux. So my particular one, and the one I've always made for you guys growing up, has been 1 cup of whole wheat flour, or not cup, but 1 ladle, 1 flat ladle of whole wheat flour, 1 flat ladle of bread flour. And I'm sorry for you gluten-free people, you're just gonna have to die. So you need the gluten in here. That's what makes the roux. All right, and then the same thing for oil. I used 1 ladle of cold-pressed olive oil, and then 1 ladle of like canola oil. Right, so you have equal amounts. We're gonna mix this all in, but we'll do that in a few minutes. The next thing is the rice, right? In the rice, we're going to go over here, and we're going to start here in a second, right? So use the one digit method, right? I'm going to fill this with water to where this is touching the top of the rice, and the water level is at this digit of my finger, right? It's going to boil down, and then we're going to put the lid on it and turn the heat off, and basically it's just going to sit there and self-steam for 15 minutes. That's how you make perfect rice every time. Doesn't matter what brand. I use basmati here, but whatever brand.
Minute.
All right. So, yeah, don't listen to Mom. We don't use minute rice.
Minute rice.
Okay,
Totally
over
awesome.
here.
Uncle Ben's.
Yeah. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get our rice going. Now, if you were in Louisiana, I can guarantee you that all the white, the milky that you see is the vitamins that they add. They pour that off, right? Nobody deals with that there. They don't care about government adding stuff to their rice. So I'll leave it, you know, just because, you know, vitamins aren't hurting you. All right, and you see I'm touching the top of the rice, and it comes up, the water comes up to that digit on the finger. That's how you do rice, period. Let's put it on the stove. All right, we'll jack this up to high on the back there. And we're just gonna wait until that comes to a boil, and then we'll have to start watching it, right? And it's important to have all this other stuff ready to go because all the timing is around that rice. All right, so let's mix this up. Now, some recipes that you're going to find online, they use margarine in here. No margarine, right? Some recipes you find online use a can of cream of mushroom soup. Chop. What? No, there's no cream of mushroom soup in etouffee. No, it's not a thing. Okay, so ignore those recipes completely. All right. So here is everything mixed up. That's what it's supposed to look like. No heat to it yet, right? It's just all mixed up.
It looks like chocolate.
Yeah, it kind of does. Yeah. All right. All right, so now we're going to bring this over, right, to the stove. We don't salt or season yet, right? We want to make sure our roux gets made first, and we have our vegetables mixed in with our roux before we start adding our seasoning. But we do want to season before we start adding any kind of liquids and actually making the roux. All right, so here we go. You're going to do it kind of high to get it started, to get the heat going, right? And then it's going to come down. Oh, and the last but not least thing that you need is a wood spatula, okay? Notice it's not a spoon. It's not curved, right? They have these that have a diagonal cut. I like those better, right? But this is the one that we just happen to have right now. So, but it has to have a flat edge. Do not use silicone. Do not use metal. Do not use anything but wood in a roux, okay? You will ruin the flavor, or you will melt that spatula, that plastic spatula, into your food. I don't think you want to eat that. Okay. All right. And I think what we'll do is we'll stop filming here for a few minutes, and let me get this up to temperature and get it going, because this is going to take a while, and that's just going to be 5 minutes of blank space.
Do you want me to
call
pause?
this part 1 and just hit pause. Unpause.
Okay, we're on.
Okay. So here we are. Come on. Get over this. Look at it, right? We're starting to see, some bubbles, right? All right. Now remember, once you've applied heat, you never stop stirring the roux. Never. Ever. Never stop. You're not leaving the stove for the next 30 minutes.
You're a slave to the stove.
Yes, you are a slave.
Which
it
is why I
owns
let
you, right?
That's why I let Daddy do it.
Uh-huh.
You can be the
All right,
slave.
so some of the things that you can see here, how you know it's not done, right, is as I'm stirring it and as the bubbles are coming up, you see how it turns white, right? You see that the white film that comes up, right? So that's the raw flour. All right. So the raw flour is what we're trying to cook away. All right. Now some people will take this as far as making this Hershey syrup dark, right? If I was doing a gumbo, that's exactly what I would do. Well, an etouffee, it's more of a plate presentation, and I really don't want it that dark, right? But I'm going to darken it, and you're going to see that happen, right? And now you're seeing the essentialness of having a flat spatula in here, not a spoon. You would never be able to keep it up off the bottom with a spoon, right? So this is your roux maker, right? And notice our rice just came to a boil, right? We're gonna let that boil all the way down, and I'm gonna add, this is a mix of olive oil and canola oil, right? Just to have a little something across the top.
Because it's oils.
Right? And what we're going to do is let that come down where the water boils off down to the level of the top of the rice. Then we put the lid on, and with this particular oven, the electric oven, which I don't like, the eye stays very hot. So essentially I'll put it down to like the melt option is as low as I can get it for about 5 minutes.
Without turning it off completely.
And then I'll turn it off completely for like the last 10 minutes. Otherwise it would just burn the rice, you know. I hate electric ovens. Okay. I really miss my gas stove. So one day out here on the homestead, we will have gas again.
Sparky, sparky.
Yeah. So you can see I just keep moving the roux, right?
Just
and you
keep it
still
moving.
see the white powder erupting up through the little bubbles, and as I stir it, and that tells me it is not done. It's not ready. All right. So you want to pause here, and we'll come back again in a couple minutes. Some more?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we unpaused. All right.
We're live again.
We are live again because I didn't hear the ding, but it's showing the timer going. All right, so just checking back, right? We're seeing a lot less of the white flour popping up in here, right? Notice up here, I just keep turning this down. I keep turning it down, right? I'm just reducing the heat as I go because it's an electric and this type holds the heat up here, and I don't want that. So we're looking at our rice. We're almost down to level with the top there. So all I'm doing is I'm keeping the stirring going, turning the heat down as I go on the roux. All right, and that's pretty close there on the rice where I want it. So I'm turning that down to the lowest setting I have. I'm putting that on, and let's give that 5 minutes at the lowest setting. And then we're going to turn it completely off and give it another 10 minutes. Again, whatever stove you have, it's going to change. All right, now I wish we had smell-o-vision because I could describe the smell change. Peaches, you smell it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a change in the flour smell, right? And that's why I want to keep turning that heat down, right?
Because I can smell that it's cooking.
Yep. That flour is cooking,
Brown.
and we don't want it to get too much further than this. Again, if you're doing a gumbo, you're going to turn this into Hershey syrup, but you're going to do it real slow. Like if I was doing a gumbo now, I would turn that heat all the way down on low, as low as I could get it, and I would keep stirring it for about 20 minutes.
Oh my
right?
gosh, yeah.
So with etouffee, I want to have a pretty color. But I don't
Caramel.
want it to look black because I don't want people to say,
It was
oh,
burnt.
you burnt it and I'm not going to eat it, right? So that is pretty good. See, as I pull through, I am not seeing streaks of white flour pop up.
Nope.
Right? All right. So to stop this cooking process on this flour now, we're going to take our Trinity, right? And we're going to put the Trinity in. All right? And part of what we're doing here is we're sauteing these veggies down. We're also adding a little moisture, and we're stopping the roux from continuing to get darker. All right? So that's right about the color that we want it right there. That's perfect. All right? And so now I can let off on some of the I'm going to, keep stirring it. Right? You can't stop doing it, but you can let off a little. All right, so I'm going to bring the temperature back up, probably medium there, all right? Because now I do want to cook the vegetables. I want to saute them down. Now again, tradition, New Orleans, Houma, where I was, right? You would saute these down until this was basically a paste, right? I happen to like chunky vegetables. It's the way I've always served it, is with a little chunky vegetable in it. So I don't saute it that much, right? But I am going to take it down. I'm going to soften everything, right? It's called sweating it, right? So I want to make sure like the onions and the celery are translucent, right? Okay, and then we can pause there, and then we'll come back when this is pretty much at that stage.
You're back
right.
on.
We're back on. Okay, here we are. I already did the 5 minutes. with the lid on at temperature, and I turn that off, and I reset the timer for 10 minutes on my rice. We're just going to let it sit there, right? Over here, again, we are just cooking this down. We want to get some translucency to the onions and celery, right? Not quite there, but getting close. And we'll just keep moving it, right? Just keep moving. Just keep moving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So basically, when the vegetables hit the chunky consistency that you want, right? Which might be, these are almost liquid, right? Or it could be, you know, what they would call Yankee style in Houma, right? Where you have the vegetables all chunky. But totally up to you. I think it's a personal preference, you know, how you want it, right? And that's pretty close. Mm-hmm. It's pretty close to what I'm comfortable with and how I like mine. So the vegetables are definitely sauteed, right? They're soft, but they still have some, you know, chunk to them. They're not totally cooked completely down, right? Mm-hmm.
So the onion is not like raw at this point. It's somewhere
correct.
Between.
Yeah, it's cooked down, right? So you can see it. You know, you grab those pieces. You can see they're translucent, right? So light goes through them. They could be a little bit further, right? Again, depending on, you know, if you have people that are kind of adverse to onions, I would just say keep going.
Mm-hmm,
just keep going until they kind of just disappear and look like it's just part of the roux, right? This is also the part and why I don't use bell peppers, because bell peppers at this stage are bitter, right? So you would if you were using bell pepper, you have to then go all the way until everything's just a smooth pate.
Oh wow!
Right. Otherwise, they will be bitter.
So you'd be cooking that down completely.
Cooking it down completely, which, you know, traditionally it is bell peppers, and traditionally that's, I think, why
they have to cook it that far.
You know, this is cooked down that far. You know, in a standard Louisiana kitchen, right? I use the sweet peppers, so there's a nice flavor. They don't have that bitterness, and I think you can get away with it. It's a little chunkier, more stuff to it, right? All right, now I'm going to flatten this out, and now whereas when we want to address salt, pepper, any seasonings, right? We want them in at this point. Again, the only seasoning you need, Tony's Asheries, right? So make it rain. All right.
Shower it with
We're
love.
gonna shower it, yep, with all that good Cajun love, right? All right. Now, in theory, we don't need any more seasoning than that for anything else we're doing, right? Remember, our liquid that we're putting in has a squirt of liquid smoke. You know, 1 to 2 tablespoons of Louisiana hot sauce. It has that nice white wine in it, and it has 4 bouillon cubes in it, right? And then we have 4. I use 2 cups of white wine, and then 2 cups of water. Again, to your flavor, what you like to have in it. All right, so we're about to start making this roux. The other thing I have is, as a backup, a container of water. So if that's not enough water, I don't have to step away to get more water. Okay, it's in my container right here. Again, I'm using an alkaline water that's been through an osmosis system.
So do they ever add like mushroom or anything?
No. You wouldn't add mushrooms because mushroom has a liquid content, a water content that's so high, it would essentially start making your gravy long before you were ready to do it. Now I could see if you wanted to saute those mushrooms in butter for 15 minutes until they're nice and brown and they're all flattened out and all the liquids out of them, maybe you could. but also mushroom is not a traditional flavor in an etouffee. So why would you put a can of cream of mushroom soup in it? Don't know. Can't explain that. But every recipe on all recipes calls for a can of cream of mushroom soup.
I'm surprised.
I've never seen anybody in Louisiana in all the years that I've been there ever put a can of cream of mushroom soup in an etouffee.
Just doesn't happen.
It's just not happening. Okay. So, we got 2 minutes left on that rice, right? When it hits 0, you're going to see me just reach across and pull this pan off the burner completely, and it's just going to sit until all of this is ready. So let's start making the actual roux, right? So this is your roux. We're going to make a gravy out of it now, right? So we got to introduce a little bit of liquid at first. All right. Move this around, and you see how it's very quickly becoming
Thicker.
And it's going to do this several times where it's going to thicken up on you really, really fast.
That's because of the flour content.
Right? That's the flour content. That's your roux reacting with it. Remember, cold water into hot pan, hot roux, right? All right, so I'm actually going to turn the temperature up because now I want this to actually come back to a boil, and I am essentially scraping off all the heat out of this pan at this point.
This method that you're using is similar to what you do when you do the sausage and the beans.
Yep, very, very similar. Yep.
Okay.
All right, so now you see I actually got a nice gravy there, right? That, of course, isn't enough to feed, you and me, much less the whole family. So we're going to keep going with our liquids. And again, I'm bringing it up to temperature, so I've jacked that up to,
8.
Medium high, basically. All right. And in between here, I just want to give it a chance for the glutens and all the stuff that's chemically happening, right? So to bind it all together. Make sure you sweep the sides. I'm going to turn that off, and again, slide the rice off. So you notice this little stuff that shows up on the sides that's hard to get off. That's good stuff. That's what helps make the gravy, right? So make sure you're scraping down the sides as you're going around, right? I don't know what the, chemical term is for that stuff, but it's what helps thicken up that gravy, right? So again, it's almost back to where I would say, hey, let's stir it for a little while and serve, except, there's more people. So we're just going to keep adding the liquid. And you saw the last of the bouillon cubes there hit the bottom. And so now it's almost too liquidy, right? So again, we're just going to let it slowly come back up to a boil. And then once we get this to almost serving thickness, right? We're going to reach back there and we're going to throw those crawfish tails and the can of rotel in there, right? Now, another thing that you could do here, if someone said they wanted a red etouffee, what they're talking about is having some tomato paste in here. So if you buy the little squirt tube of tomato paste, that's the best way to do it. You could squeeze a tablespoon or 2 of that tomato paste in here, and it's going to make it a red color, and it will change the flavor.
Enhance the flavor
a little bit. I personally like it. A lot of people don't. Totally up to you. I'll eat it either way. I really don't care. It's crawfish etouffee.
Throw a squirt of ketchup in there?
I would not put ketchup in there. It's got corn syrup. You're
a purist.
Yeah, it's a chemical bomb is what American ketchup is, but you don't need all the sweetness and stuff is not going to help. You already have some sweet note with the with your
peppers.
With your sweet peppers. If you're doing this right, you've bought some Georgia Vidalia onions, and you're doing this with Georgia Vidalia onions, and then that flavor is so good. So, which, by the way, if you're in Louisiana, they have a Vidalia onion in Louisiana. It is not the same as the Vidalia onions from Georgia. There's only 6 or 7 counties where Vidalia onions can come from in Georgia, and not that I'm a Georgia native snob or anything, but you know, by Georgia. All right. Now it's getting a little sparky for me, so it's bubbling up a little hard. I'm going to turn the heat back down. Right. I just want a slow simmer, but this is going to help get off. See all the moisture coming off? So the moisture's coming off. We're just going to keep going on this for just a little bit. And again, I'm looking for that consistency. Can I serve that? And it's okay to have it a little liquidy, because remember, it's being served over rice. So the rice is going to pick up a lot of that moisture. So if you make it too thick, like gravy consistency,
It's like pudding.
then you're going to serve somebody a bowl of pudding. And,
Etouffee pudding.
they may not appreciate that. So that's pretty good. I'm actually going to turn the heat off, and I'm going to reach back here and get these crawfish. So again, this is the crawfish underneath the can of Rotel. Drop that in. I'm going to hand that off to
Your lovely secretary wife. Recorder.
Yeah. Now remember, the crawfish tails themselves are actually cooked before they're packaged, because they already have the color on them, right? So all you're doing is reheating those. You're not really cooking them. All right. So that's about the right consistency, and you have enough heat left in this to where you can take the lid.
Let's put it on.
And I made sure like my heat's off. I'm not seeing it bubble anymore, which is good, right? I don't want it bubbling too much, or them crawfish will become rubber in there, right?
And seafood like shrimp as well.
Yeah. If you were making this, a shrimp etouffee or anything like any of those seafoods, even the
Scallops.
Scallops or crab meat or anything like that, you don't want to overcook it, right? You want to have the water, your pot at the boiling temperature. Throw it in, turn it off, put the lid on, and we're going to set the timer for 5 minutes. And we'll pause here, and we'll come back when we plate it, and that will be it.
Okay, say that again.
Okay, so as we look, right, none of the rice is stuck to the bottom. We're fluffing it up, right? And after I get done fluffing it up, I'm actually just going to put the lid back on it and let it sit for the last 3 or 4 minutes while my pot is finishing up. So we'll be back just a minute to plate it up.
Ready? Oops.
All right. Okay.
Don't want to show off the cat.
So I just put made my rice ball in the middle of the bowl, right? Again, any container, could be a plate, bowl, right? Whatever you want. Let's go ahead and pull this off. And you see the consistency, what that looks like. All right. And again, our little crawfish are not rubber. They're just right.
Nibble, nibble.
Okay. And you get a good old scoop of that. All right. And there you go.
Yay!
Etouffee.
All right.
All right. That's all.
That's all you wrote.
It was fun cooking with you. Talk to you later. Bye.
Chef Dwayne.